Black boy shocks courtroom, says 2 words that make judge go pale. Eden, a quiet 14-year-old black boy, always kept to the shadows in Miss Clarke's classroom. He sat in the back row, eyes downcast as if hoping to disappear. He never raised his hand, never laughed with the others, just existed. Miss Clarke couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. She had seen the faint bruises peeking from beneath his sleeves, noticed how he flinched at sudden movements. Whenever she gently asked, he gave the same hollow response, a tired shrug, a mumbled, "I'm fine." His foster parents, Thomas and Olivia, were the town's golden couple. Generous, well-spoken, always the first to volunteer for charity events. They were admired in church, praised for giving Eden a home. But Miss Clarke saw past their polished smiles. There was something else, something they didn't want the world to see. Let us know where you're tuning in from, and if you enjoy stories like these, don't forget to subscribe for more captivating narratives. Let's dive into this story. One Wednesday afternoon, she asked Eden to stay behind after class. "Eden," she said softly, "are you safe at home?" For a fleeting moment, his eyes shimmered with unshed tears. But then, just like always, he shook his head. "I'm fine," he murmured, stepping back. Miss Clarke had heard that phrase too many times before, and every time it had meant the opposite. She wasn't about to let this go. The next day, Miss Clarke noticed the bruises on Eden's wrists one morning as he reached for his backpack. The dark marks were unmistakable, and when she gently touched his arm, he flinched. Her stomach churned. She had seen too many warning signs in her years of teaching, and this was another she could not ignore. After school, she reported her concerns to Child Protective Services, CPS. Within days, an investigator visited Eden's foster home, occupied by Thomas and Olivia Martin. The Martins, known in the community as model citizens, presented a spotless home, warm smiles, and a convincing story about a clumsy teenager. Eden, sitting on the couch, stared at the carpet as they assured the investigator everything was fine. His hesitant words, "I just fell," seemed to close the case, at least for the moment. Miss Clarke wasn't convinced. Over the following weeks, she quietly documented every new bruise, every troubling behavior, and every whispered comment from classmates who had seen or heard something troubling. Her journal filled with troubling details, Eden limping into class, tears in his eyes, or a classmate recounting how Thomas had loudly berated Eden in front of the school gates. At home, things worsened for Eden. Thomas and Olivia, emboldened by the lack of consequences, punished him more severely. They locked him in his room without dinner or berated him until he felt utterly worthless. Eden endured it all in silence, convinced that no one would believe a foster kid over his seemingly perfect guardians. One afternoon, Miss Clarke saw Eden struggling to walk into class, his gait uneven, his eyes red. That was the breaking point. She marched into the principal's office and demanded they contact CPS again, this time armed with her meticulous records and statements from concerned classmates. A new social worker reopened the investigation, and the Martins were livid. They lashed out, calling Miss Clarke a meddling busybody and threatening to remove Eden from the school. However, the district refused, insisting that Eden remain until the investigation concluded. The case took a dramatic turn when a neighbor recorded Thomas yelling at Eden, his voice dripping with venomous insults while Eden's sobbing pleas echoed in the background. The recording, coupled with Miss Clarke's detailed notes, led to an emergency court hearing. The courtroom was tense on the day of the hearing. Thomas and Olivia arrived dressed impeccably, their posture radiating indignation. Miss Clarke sat behind Eden, her hand resting lightly on his shoulder as a gesture of quiet support. Eden sat stiffly, his small frame trembling. Judge Josephine Davies, known for her no-nonsense demeanor, presided over the case. She examined the evidence, photographs of bruises, teacher logs, and the harrowing audio recording. The Martins' defense attorney painted a picture of them as devoted foster parents burdened with the difficult task of disciplining a troubled boy. Eden listened in silence, dread tightening his throat. When it was time for Eden to testify, his heart pounded as he slid off the bench and approached the witness stand. Thomas's cold glare bore into him, a silent warning. Olivia's fake, sorrowful expression only deepened his sense of betrayal. He took his seat, his hands trembling as he clutched the edges of the stand. "Eden," Judge Davies said gently, "we're here to help you, but we need you to tell us the truth." Fear gripped him. His mind replayed Thomas's threats, Olivia's tears, and the countless moments he had convinced himself that no one would believe him. Thomas's lawyer peppered him with pointed questions, suggesting that he was clumsy or exaggerating. Eden stammered, unable to find the words to defend himself. Miss Clarke frowned, her frustration evident. Judge Davies intervened, signaling the lawyer to back off. "Eden," she said softly, "are you safe at home?" The room went silent. Eden stared down at the scuffed wood of the witness box, his pulse pounding. He could feel Thomas's hard gaze, a silent threat. But then he remembered Miss Clarke's unwavering support, the neighbor's recording, and the quiet but powerful encouragement of his classmates. A voice inside him whispered, "You can do this. I'm not safe," he said, his voice breaking. The courtroom fell still. 2 words, "not safe." They cut through the air like thunder. Judge Davies leaned forward, her expression shifting from stern to concerned. "Eden, what do you mean?" she asked. Tears streamed down his face as he spoke, each word a release. "They hurt me. They say I'm worthless. They said if I told anyone, they'd make it worse." Judge Davies studied him carefully, then turned her gaze to Thomas and Olivia. Their defense attorney leapt to his feet, objecting and accusing Eden of lying. Thomas erupted, shouting that Eden was ungrateful, while Olivia buried her face in her hands, sobbing loudly. The judge's gavel slammed down, commanding silence. The neighbor's recording was played next. The cruel words and Eden's heartbreaking cries echoed through the courtroom. Miss Clarke watched as the judge's expression shifted, from shock to cold, controlled anger. When the recording ended, the room was eerily quiet. Judge Davies addressed Eden again, her voice softer. "Thank you for speaking up. You're very brave. This court will not fail you." She then turned to Thomas and Olivia. "The evidence is overwhelming. Child Protective Services will remove Eden from your care immediately. You will face charges for neglect, emotional abuse, and possibly more." As bailiffs escorted the Martins out of the courtroom, Thomas shouted accusations at Miss Clarke. "This is your fault," he roared. Olivia sobbed uncontrollably, clinging to his arm. Miss Clarke remained calm, her focus on Eden. The boy slid off the witness stand, tears still streaming, but relief washing over him. Miss Clarke knelt beside him. "It's over," she whispered. "You did it." Outside the courthouse, reporters clamored for a statement, their cameras flashing. Miss Clarke shielded Eden, guiding him through the crowd to a quieter exit. In the days that followed, word of the case spread quickly. The Martins, once admired by many, were exposed as abusers. Miss Clarke was hailed as a hero for her persistence and care. Eden was placed with a new foster family, the Johnsons, who specialized in supporting children who had experienced trauma. They provided a stable, nurturing environment along with therapy to help Eden heal. When Miss Clarke visited him a week later, she found him in a small but cheerful room painted a soothing shade of blue. He looked healthier, his eyes brighter. "I just wanted to see how you were settling in," she said, handing him a small gift, a notebook for his drawings. He accepted it with a shy smile. "Thank you for everything," he said softly. As they sat in the Johnsons' cozy living room, Eden talked about his plans to join the school's art club. He showed Miss Clarke one of his new sketches, far more vibrant than his earlier drawings. "I feel safe now," he admitted. "You deserve that," Miss Clarke replied, "and your courage made it happen." In the following weeks, Eden's transformation became evident. In class, he sat confidently, no longer hiding in the back row. Word of his bravery inspired other students to come forward about their own struggles. The school counselor's office became a safe haven for those who had once suffered in silence. One afternoon, Eden lingered after class. Approaching Miss Clarke's desk, he said quietly, "You never gave up on me." She blinked, touched by his words. "If you hadn't pushed me to speak, I might still be there. Thank you." She smiled, her voice steady. "That's what teachers do. But you were the one who found your voice." Eden nodded, his eyes glistening with gratitude. "Yeah, I guess I did." Then, with a small laugh, he added, "And I made a judge go pale." Miss Clarke laughed softly. "You certainly did." Together, they understood the significance of those 2 words, not safe. They had shattered illusions and set a boy free. Eden's story became a testament to the power of courage and the impact of unwavering support. Sometimes it takes a single act of bravery to change everything.